Francisco Goya was an impressionist painter in like the 1800s periods, and his work is beautiful. Like it's really gorgeous. I think one of his works, the Black Collection, like look it up. It's really beautiful artwork. But that's not what stands out to me about Francisco Goya. So little bit of backstory. So he was born on March 30th in 1746 in a Spanish city of, and I'm going to butcher this, Fillon de Tatos. De, de Tatos. That's the best I got. He grew up in a middle class family, and he began studying art very early. He had an interest in it, and like he was good too. And this is where he deviates. His parents supported his art, which is so cool to see because normally I study and research artists, and it's always like their parents are like, "Oh, ay, 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 why don't you do something else? Like this is pointless." But like his parents were supportive of his art, and that's so cool to see. Like an artist who did have people supporting him, which is awesome. And I really think that support from his parents really led him to become the artist he is. And like with some artists, part of what drives them is their failure and rejection. Like Van Gogh. Like I have a paint in the background, there's a painting of Van Gogh, and he was rejected by like everyone. Only his brother really believed in him, like his parents, everybody, and that fueled his artwork. But with Francisco, his artwork wasn't fueled by that failure. He was supported. And I think that shines through in his earlier works. And I think because of that support, it led him to flourish. And that flourishing really captured the notice of some well known artists at the time. So he drew the attention of this one Spanish artist. He was a well-known church altarpiece painter named Jose Luzia. And while we may not be familiar with him today, he was a well-known and influential artist of that period. So that was a big deal. He also attracted the attention of a German neoclassical artist, Anton Raphael Mengs. And I think it's cool because you can see the neoclassical influence throughout his artworks, even later on in life, such as I previously mentioned, his art collection. You can see that influence in it. So it's cool to really learn and study where that influence in his art came from because we can see it. So it's nice to see it and then also know where it came from. And so 30 years later, now he's like a middle adult. Francisco Goya became the court painter for the Spanish royal family, which is huge. And like it's so cool that we have this guy. He had enormous talent to become a really good painter. And then his parents supported that. And then other artists took him under their wings and tutored him, and it turned out and he became a very successful painter. But unfortunately, this is kind of where the fun, successful part ends because unfortunately, from this point on, the life of Francisco Goya becomes a lot more sad and dismal. So, what happened is in the 1790s, Goya was in his 70s, and his health began to very rapidly deteriorate, both mentally and physically. And he grew this obsession with his own, like his mortality, and that really plagued him. He began to be really not even just afraid, but obsessed with his own ultimate death. And this led to Goya really resenting society around him. He began to withdraw from society and the people within it. And in the late 1810s, he attempted to escape the Republic of Mexico and he began to live in a farmhouse converted into a villa and an art studio for him. But unfortunately, he was caught and taken back, and he began to struggle with a lot of deep issues that were undiagnosed at the time. But I think looking back, um, I think it's a fairly safe bet to say that he suffered with some sort of depression, maybe even some sort of schizophrenia, because he was withdrawal, which is a symptom for both of them. But again, we don't know. All we have is what happened, and so what we have is these works of art that, um, well, it's hard to describe it, but the best I can do is that art captures what's inside of a person. Like that's what my art is. It captures what's inside of me, what I'm feeling, in a way that I struggle to do verbally or even just to understand. And so I think with Francisco Goya, his collection, the Dark Collection, it does that. It captures him inside, and it's so sad. Like because it makes you think, like, is this what was going on inside for him? Like, it's because it's easy to look at a painting or a piece of art and just take it at face value. But if you look at something and you say, this is a reflection of the creator, then suddenly a lot of art gets a lot more um, sad or even a lot more happy. But with Francisco Goya, it was a lot more sad because not even just that his paintings were sad or depressing, it showed you what he was going through on the inside. And I I can't explain it exactly. Maybe because like I'm also an artist, I get it, but it breaks my heart to see that kind of struggles that he went through later in life that he couldn't articulate except through art. And I'm thankful that art exists for people like him to express that. Him and me. Like that's what I do with my art. Like my art is an extension of me. An extension of me that I don't even understand. And so it's nice to know that he was at least given that thing to be able to express himself. But like to know, like I mentioned this briefly, but like his withdrawal from society was a big part of him as an artist. And I understand that. Like I connect with that on a level that I'm almost embarrassed to say because I do withdraw from society too. I was actually homeschooled for a lot of like middle school and stuff. And so I never really got a ton of social skills. And even then moving forward, like I never really enjoyed being around other people in society. I always thought society was a little bit ridiculous. Like, so we act this way because we're expected to. I thought it was silly. So I would withdraw from it, and I still do. Like, the school I go to, like maybe 10 people know my name because, and it's not like bad. I kind of like it. I don't like society. And so it's really, I don't know. It's like hopeful to know that there was another person who had those same issues, who struggled with connecting to people in society, and he uses art to connect to people. It's nice to know that, and I think art is such a beautiful thing in that way. So, I